Good morning, everyone. This is the regular monthly open meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. It's now 9:30 a.m. We are here live in the boardroom as well as available for viewing on TV6, Zoom, and Granicus. For those of you in the room, I'd like to please request that you silence your phones if you haven't already. I'm going to call the meeting to order. I see we have a quorum, and we'll start today's meeting with our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Director S.K. Park. S.K.
Please rise and follow me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, SK. Appreciate that. All right. It's now time to approve our agenda for today. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda? I see Ira moves, Jewel seconds. Thank you both. Any suggested changes to today's agenda? All right. Seeing none, we'll consider the agenda approved by consent. Moving on to agenda item 4, we're now looking to approve the meeting minutes for two different meetings. Let's try to address them collectively. First is for our June 18th regular board meeting and our July 5th agenda prep meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes for these two meetings as outlined in the agenda package? SK moves, Reza seconds. Thank you. Does anybody have any suggested changes to either or both of those meeting minutes? All right. Seeing none, we'll consider those approved by consent as well. Moving on to agenda item 5, report of the chair, very, very brief today. You may notice that we're one board member at the very end short today. Director Andy Ginocchio has resigned from the board effective Friday, July 5th for medical reasons. At this time, the board does not anticipate this resignation to impact our upcoming election to fill the seats of the 3 directors whose terms are expiring. And that's all I have for my chair remarks today. As always, thanks for listening and thanks for your support. We'll now move on to agenda item 6, which is our open forum. At this time, members may address the board of directors regarding items within the jurisdiction of this board of directors and not on the agenda. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum to 30 minutes. Each member is asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum, and speakers may not give their time to other people. Members not in the boardroom can also share their comments by joining this meeting via Zoom or by emailing your comments to meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during this open forum, should time permit. And good morning, Michaela. Do we have any requests by members to speak this morning?
Yes, we have about 5 in-person speakers, and then there's about 7 or so emails that have been sent in that I'll read after. So the first speaker is John Cornell.
Good morning.
Good morning. What I would like to know is the facts on why the recall. I've gotten 2 or 3 different versions, and I figured you guys have the real version. So I would like to know what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Joshua Sue.
Good morning, Mr. Sue.
Good morning, members of the board. I was under the mistaken impression, perhaps not, that today the board was going to vote on the resolution that relates to reducing the rental percentages in Third Mutual from 30 to 25%. I wasn't sure if it was going to be voted on today or in a future meeting. I was under the impression it was going to happen today. But if not, I would like to speak on behalf of my colleagues, and I'm a real estate professional, that if it does get adopted, that I would request a like a sunset provision of 30, 60, or 90 days thereafter, that it won't be effective immediately, because that will affect a lot of different current transactions. And so anyway, I don't know when that'll happen, but when it does happen, and I'm assuming that it will happen sooner or later, that a sunset provision be implemented so that people have time to respond and react to the board decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Keith Balia.
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I appreciate all the work that you do. I've had the pleasure of working with some of you, so I know how diligent you are in trying to do a good job for us. I'm also a homeowner here in Third Mutual, and things are going well, so thank you for having things go well. I'm here today also as a board member of the Billiards Club of Laguna Woods. We had the pleasure of working with Director Horton and President Ackman after this Building E change in Clubhouse 1 occurred. Had nothing to do with the CAC, but a room was taken away temporarily for VMS for some mysterious purpose which was never clearly defined. We now have a new billiards room which we have worked very hard and diligently on in the art room in Clubhouse 1. We are very excited about having that room. In the Globe last week, unfortunately, I noticed that that is a very controversial decision which should have been mundane, that a synagogue was displaced from Clubhouse 1. We didn't know anything about that. However, we found that Director Horton and President Ackman are very fair and reasonable people, just as you are. It seems like a mistake was made because Building E was up for renewal and something was done during the approval of the reclamation of Clubhouse 1, and all of a sudden the room was gone and changed. We appreciate what you've done to help us. We're sorry that the synagogue has an issue with that. We certainly did not mean to contribute to that. We don't think Director Horton and President Ackman did either. However, if a mistake was made, I'm sure an apology can be given. I understand that some people might be angry and disappointed, thinking they were a major tenet of Clubhouse 1, and communications apparently broke down. I also understand that the synagogue is currently operational in Clubhouse 3 with a satisfactory facility. So I'm wondering if it's necessary to have a recall initiated by Third Mutual when in fact it's in operation. I would appreciate a comment, as the gentleman before me has said, what the heck is going on, so that we can understand a little bit clearer what is going on. And maybe I'm mistaken. So I'm done. Thank you very much for your comments. Appreciate your support. And please think about not recalling. Thank you.
Next speaker is Bill Walsh.
Good morning. I came to talk about energy issues and a few maintenance issues. In mid-May, 2 streetlight poles, a friend, they were severely damaged. I have written up a report, a page for all of you. You don't have to have the answer for me right now. Pole 0077T and pole 0180. Basically, the base of the poles were gone. I don't even know why the poles were standing. What really interests me is, have they been replaced, and is there a monthly report on streetlight outages that Third gets? And if so, can I get a copy? And again, with whom has Third Mutual contracted to maintain the street and cul-de-sac LED streetlight poles? Okay. How much is the current monthly SCE credit for each of these 788 LED streetlight poles in Third Mutual? that Third Mutual owns. What is the yearly dollar credit for the 788 streetlights combined? That means the savings when you're doing your budget, hopefully. What is the current difference in the cost between LS1 and LS2 tariffs for residential streetlights? LS1 is your LED. Edison owns the LS2s now in Third Mutual, which are the 12-foot poles that kind of are walkway poles that go up like three-story buildings. I could not locate any monthly spreadsheet detailing the electricity production from the 12 solar installations in Third Mutual in either the third M&C agenda packet or the board agenda packet. And I was just wondering where I can get a copy. Okay. Is anybody monitoring the solar panels at this time? How often are the panels cleaned? Who is cleaning them? And are there any other issues with foliage blocking the sunlight to any of these installations? I doubt it, since these are on three-story buildings, but it's always a question. And are there any outages reported on the inverters? There's a question. And I've got 38 seconds. So the other issue I put on the paper was mosquitoes. I don't know if it was pleasure, I had the experience of walking through rice paddies and jungles for 2 years, checking people for malaria and giving them medications, chloroquine and primaquine if they did have it. Those were the medications of 50 years ago. And I just want to say that it's slowly creeping this way, these tropical diseases that are transmitted by mosquitoes are creeping their way into North America. And you should really be aware that you've got ponding on your flat roofs. And I don't know how you get away with particularly Aedes aegypti that can, basically reproduce in grass. And, when we're watering grass every night. So, but just be aware. And I think people should be very careful about how they see standing water in the community. And that's my soapbox. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. Next speaker is Phyllis Waite.
Hello. As always, I have to thank you for your hard work. I know what you guys put in and the excellent communication you have throughout the community, regardless of comments from people who don't avail themselves. Anyway, maybe I'm mistaken. I thought at the GRF meeting it was said that you guys were going to vote on the Building E, or at least address it as far as the executive committee clearing that building. And then I've had other people tell me that they think it's already been approved. So I was just inquiring about the status of rebuilding Building E, in case you wonder where I stand on it. I agree with the GRF's recommendation that we rebuild that building and use reserve funds. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have another in-person speaker who is a tenant, and she's requesting to speak. I wanted to get the approval of the board, if that's okay.
Any issues? I mean, normally we only have members speak. This is a
Right.
members board meeting.
Yes, I let her know.
Okay. Given that it's normally members only, I'm going to say no.
Okay, no problem.
Since I'm not hearing any resounding comments one way or the other, but if you can send me her information, I will reach out to her and see if I can understand and help her out.
Yes, absolutely. So the rest are emails that were sent in. I'll go ahead and read those right now.
Okay.
The first one is from Chris Collins, and she stated, hospice care, what to expect. How would you react to being told that your spouse was being transitioned to hospice care? Fear, sadness. Often people react with the same degree of fear that they did some 20 years ago to diagnose cancer. Today, cancer has become more treatable. What is your understanding of hospice care? The next broadcast in the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village's televised series entitled Planning of the Inevitable will focus on questions we all have about the hospice care as well as examine some of the misconceptions and myths. For example, one misconception is that hospice care is only for cancer patients. Another is that patients are only transitioned to hospice care when they have only a few days to live. Another issue is whether a patient can still receive treatment while in hospice care. What is the difference between hospice and palliative care? How is hospice care paid for? These questions and issues, among others, will be the focus of the Foundation's next broadcast, which will be aired on Village Television beginning on Saturdays in June at 12 noon and continue on Saturdays for the rest of the month. Tune in and hear Dr. True McCann, a graduate of the Baylor College of Medicine. Dr. McCann is the Director, Outpatient Hospice and Palliative Care, Memorial Care Saddleback Hospital. If you want to view this broadcast on your own schedule, it is also available on the Foundation website, foundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org, under a special tab, Planning for the Inevitable. This website section includes the YouTube links for this broadcast and all of our earlier ones. If you have any questions about this topic or the upcoming broadcast, please contact the Foundation at 949-268-2246 or thefoundation@comline.com. For more information about the Foundation, please go to our website at foundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org. Please note that donations can always be made using PayPal or a credit card on the Foundation website. Next member that wrote in is Cynthia Case, and she stated, as a new owner in Third Mutual, I understand and support efforts to ensure that new members are financially able to pay their dues. However, I would like to propose a middle path to ownership. For example, if liquid assets are at least $125,000, the yearly income...
Excuse me? Can I have you wait and read that one? That's probably on something we're going to discuss.
Oh, sure.
11A, I believe, agenda item 11. Sorry. It's 10E. Sorry, 10E. If you could wait and hold that for that,
yes,
so we don't forget what she has to say. And that's just relating to our financial qualifications.
Yes, absolutely. Next one is from Valerie Sand, and she said, oh, you know what? It looks like most of these are for that item then. So I'll go ahead and read those at that time.
Okay.
Because I think a majority of these are for that item.
Okay. You want to take a quick look to make sure?
Yes. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. I'll read those for 10E.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Before I ask the board if they have any responses, let me just make some response about the recall. So regarding the recall, first of all, please note that this isn't a decision that the third board has taken lightly. We understand that a potential recall of directors of any mutual is disruptive. It makes members less inclined to want to join our boards and should be an option of last resort. Also, to be clear, the third board hasn't voted to recall any directors. Instead, what the third board has done is made a request to the GRF board to hold a corporate members meeting to discuss and vote on whether or not to recall directors, GRF directors Hopkins and Horton. Before I address the recall meeting request, let me remind everybody about the hierarchy of our boards and who votes for our mutual directors. Manor owners are the ones that vote for the housing mutual directors. The housing mutuals are Third United and Mutual 50, also known as the Towers. When manor owners vote for housing mutual directors, they are assigning responsibility to those elected board directors to make key decisions about their mutuals, such as what services are to be provided at what cost, and thus what our monthly assessment will be. Since manor owners vote for the housing mutual directors, they are also the ones who can recall directors of Third or United or the Mutual 50 board. This happened most recently in 2022 when 2 third board directors were recalled by a vote of the Third Mutual manor owners. One of the key decisions that housing mutual directors make is who should be on the GRF board of directors. It is not the manor owners that vote for GRF directors. Instead, it is the directors of Third, United, and Mutual who vote for the village, for which village members they would like to be on our GRF Board of Directors. Since the directors of Third United and Mutual 50 elect the GRF Board of Directors, they can also recall them. As Director Hopkins has pointed out while commenting on Third's request to have this meeting to discuss recalling certain GRF Board Directors, this is the third attempt within the past year. The first two attempts were attempted by the third board without spending any money to get their attorney involved. As these requests were made, the GRF board, rather than reach out to understand and discuss the situation and to see if there were changes that needed to be considered, instead used their attorneys to squash the two requests. With continued unaddressed concerns, the Third Mutual finally involved its attorney and made a successful request to the GRF board to hold a corporate members meeting to discuss and vote on whether to recall two GRF board directors. The GRF board has recently agreed to hold this meeting. It'll be held on Thursday, September 5th, 2024. The purpose of the meeting is for the Housing Mutual directors to share their thoughts regarding the GRF board directors Hopkins and Horton, allow the GRF directors to respond to any concerns, and then have a vote of the directors of Third United and Mutual 50 as to whether or not to recall one or both of these GRF directors. Director Hopkins has commented that the GRF board continues to have its attorney look for flaws in how the request was made. And in an effort to minimize legal challenges, the third board is following its understanding of the process. We've requested a meeting. The meeting has now been scheduled, and we'll be sharing our thoughts at that meeting, and then the Housing Mutual directors will vote at that meeting. At this time, the third board is not planning on sharing, prior to that meeting, its specific thoughts regarding why it wants to recall Directors Horton and Hopkins. Based upon the legal scrutiny of the GRF board, we see potential legal concerns in sharing our thoughts prior to that meeting. And that's what I have to say about the third board's request for a GRF corporate members meeting to discuss and vote on whether or not to recall two GRF board directors. With that, does any other third board director have anything they want to add? Okay, hopefully that covers the comments regarding the recall and what we're doing about it.
As a manor owner,
Sorry, you're out of order.
all right, it tells us nothing.
Okay, it tells you that you'll be hearing.
How do we find out?
You'll.
I know what you're going to do, but I don't know why. How can I support you? That's my issue.
After the meeting.
Okay, after the meeting. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any other comments on any of the comments to be made? I have a few. All right, Mr. Zhu, if he's still here. Regarding potentially reducing the lease rate from 30%, the lease percentage rate from 30% to 25%, that's still in discussion amongst the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. No decision has been made. Anybody who's interested in that can attend the next Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. I think we'll be talking a little bit about that, and that is, next meeting is a week from today, 9:30 next Tuesday in this boardroom. I'm not sure that we'll make a decision even then. Once the decision is made at the committee level, if the decision is to proceed with considering reducing the lease percentage from 30% to 25%, it'll then come before the board. The board will vote on whether to put it on 28-day member review and comment, so there'll be plenty of time for discussion. In the meantime, I understand the request for making sure that any ongoing transactions are not impacted by such a thing, and we will ensure that that's part of what we discuss. Regarding the energy plan, Mr. Walsh, I think Siobhan, in one of her recent CEO reports, had even kind of had a chart of who maintains our thing. So, Mr. Walsh, I'll get that information back to you just to make sure you have it. I'm not aware of a monthly report of streetlight outages.
No.
Okay. I know that solar installation spreadsheet is prepared, but not terribly often, mainly because we do have staff. We have an ongoing program that maintains. We have a contractor that we pay for that maintains these solar installations, the 12 of them on top of our 3-story buildings. It's monitored closely. The preparation of the spreadsheet of how many kilowatts was a bigger burden than the committee needed to see every time the committee met. So I think we're only getting that spreadsheet every 6 months, but Mr. Walsh, I'll get that latest spreadsheet to you as well. I know that we're looking into our 2025 budget a little bit about some renewable energy that will impact our lighting and electricity as well. So we'll see where that goes. Ms. Waite, to tell you the truth, I'm not sure where we are with a GRF vote on Building E. I was under the impression that the GRF board will be calling a corporate members meeting, which would, again, corporate members are the directors of Third, United, and Mutual 50, to vote on the recommendation that was approved by the GRF board, but it sounds like the GRF board may be looking into some legalities of whether or not that vote is needed. So I'm waiting to hear, like you are. Sorry, I don't have a better answer for you there. And that's all I had. Ira?
Just to add from Mr. Walsh, they're cleaned twice a year, the solar panels, on a regular basis. I forget which months. One's in the spring, one's in the fall, on a yearly basis.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other comments? All right. Thank you all for your comments. I appreciate it. And we will now move on to agenda item 8, which is our CEO report. Siobhan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Laws. Honorable members of the board, it's my honor to give an update this morning on various items that are going on in the village. I'd like to start with just highlighting the 2025 budget meetings that are remaining for Third Mutual. The televised business plan review is Monday, August 19th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom, with the budget adoption plan for Tuesday, September 17th at the open board meeting. Next, I'd like to provide an update on the website transformation progress. This was highlighted yesterday at the Media and Communications Committee meeting. Progress to date includes content migration, more than 11,000 files, 7,000 documents. News posts and club posts have been transferred. There are going to be search function improvements. Auto suggestions will appear as you enter your query. All documents are indexed and available, and there's the ability to customize results for specific queries. There are also privacy improvements, the ability to restrict documents and pages to residents only, and an easy-to-use login based on the existing resident portal login. On the screen before you are design concepts, and the images are not final, but these are the concepts. The new concepts use our branded colors. The main background is softened so that it warms the page and is easier on the eyes. The smallest font size is 16 point, making it easy to read. Overall, the design concept is modern and clean, with easily identifiable calls to action and greater accessibility. The design concept uses what is called a modified bento box style, which offers simplicity and efficiency and the ability to adapt to different devices. Bento offers greater visual appeal, organization, and user familiarity. Bento style leads to visually pleasing content hierarchies or simplified navigation. So we're excited that this project is coming about, and we hope to have it completed by the end of September. This morning, I would also like to highlight our village communication platforms and how they are performing, since we continuously strive to communicate effectively with our residents. These are the communication platforms that we use. This morning, I'd like to focus on our electronic and digital modes of communication. In terms of digital communication, we offer What's Up in the Village with more than 17,000 recipients weekly. We have emailed newsletters from the presidents of Third, GRF, and United. There are special notification emails from the different departments as they're working on specific projects in a given area of the community. We have the village website, Facebook, the TV6 message board, and marquees throughout the village. On the screen before you is a sample monthly report from iContact, our third-party email release platform. The performance of each email is sent and monitored in detail for open rate, contacts sent, clicks, method read, whether it's by phone, tablet, computer, and we also monitor unsubscribes. To understand how our email efforts compare, we look at industry averages. The general marketing email open rate statistics include the following. OmniSend averages 13.58% open rate. MailMunch has an average across all industries of about 21%. Constant Contact averages 15 to 25% open rates. And Smart Insights averaged 25% open rate in 2017. Our sample open rates include the following, and they're much higher than the industry standards. A GRF newsletter sent on May 16th was 54% open rate. A United newsletter sent on May 3rd, a 69% open rate. The third newsletter sent on May 1st, a 64% open rate. And the April 19th, What's Up in the Village, had an open rate of 54%. During the same April to June reporting period, the special emails, again, targeted to specific residents in the community based on the activity or project, had really high open rates. The garden centers had a 75% open rate on June 24th. A community services bulletin that goes to all the realtors in the community had a 68% open rate on April 25th. Carport cleaning notices to both mutuals have a 72% open rate on July 7th, and so forth. So VMS statistics provide that our audience reach is significantly better than industry averages, which is good news. Also on the screen before you is the website use data for March, April, and May 2024. We had 90,000 active users and 85,000 new users. Our average visitor spent 2 minutes and 19 seconds on the website, and this is a very good engagement rate, as the industry standard is 49 to 52 seconds across multiple industries. The Village Facebook page is another digital communication tool, and we have data for the period of April to June 30th, 2024. The website has 41,000 followers currently. We post 1 post a day, or an average of 7 posts per week to Facebook. During this time, there were 868 reactions or comments or shares. This is a 5.2% increase from the prior 3-month period. There were 8,700 Facebook visits, almost a 20% increase from the prior 3-month period, and an increase of 158 followers during this time, a 61% increase from the prior 3-month period. Pictured on the screen is the Village Breeze. This is a magazine that offers 360-degree communication. Village Breeze, the website, What's Up in the Village, the Facebook share content for redundancy and increased readership. This provides important content to our non-digital users. It also offers important reference materials such as the community map, frequently called numbers, and so forth. This brings voice to often missed groups such as the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village, Village Community Fund, clubs, and so forth, and offers in-depth content readers wouldn't get otherwise. As shown in our presentation this morning, we continuously strive to make communication available in various modes and measure to see how effective it is. We're learning that there has been recent declines in the willingness of residents across the country to read. The personal interest reading rate for Americans has dropped from 0.36 hours per day to 0.29 hours per day. And many reasons include little interest in reading, no time, people are overwhelmed by information overload, and so forth. So no matter how well strategized, communication's a two-way street. Absorbing information is something we can't take responsibility for, but we can strive to have the different modes out there so people can take advantage of them if they so choose. And that concludes my presentation this morning, and I do want to touch on, we do have broadcast platform, as you all know, Village TV, which we're on this morning, TV6, and the YouTube channel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Siobhan. Any questions for Siobhan? All right, just a comment that I tend to want to make sure everybody's aware of when you talk about the Village Breeze. That's totally subsidized, so we don't pay for that at all as mutual members, correct?
That is correct. It's fully funded by external sources.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Moon?
Yes, we lined up for the dinner ticket, buffet ticket, all that, and there's a long line. If we can open up, we can do that through all the website, the Facebook. You're gonna increase your visit as well as convenient for the resident.
Good. Thanks.
Thank
Good
you.
comment. Okay. Any others? All right. Thanks again, Siobhan. We'll now move on to agenda item number 9, which is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board via a single motion. Today, per the consent calendar, the board is being asked to ratify the preliminary financials for the month of May 2024 and one variance request recommended by the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee, or ACSC. Can I get a motion to approve today's consent calendar? Jim moves, SK seconds. Thank you both. Are there any questions from board members regarding the consent calendar? Okay. Any objections to approving consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, we'll consider the consent calendar items approved by consent. Thank you. And we'll move on to agenda item 10. Agenda item 10 is our unfinished business. Today we have 5 unfinished business items to discuss. Agenda item 10A, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of Standard 6 for block walls. This updated standard was recommended by the ACSC, and last month the board voted to approve this revised standard forward for 28-day member review and comment. Today we will be voting as to whether or not to accept this revised standard going forward. Chris, before we begin, could you please read the resolution for us?
Yes, resolution, excuse me, 03-24-XX, revised standard 6, concrete block walls. Whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual recognizes the need to amend standards and create new standards as necessary, and whereas the Mutual recognized the need to revise standard 6, block walls. Now therefore be it resolved July 16, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts revisions and amendments to Standard 6, concrete block walls, as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that Resolution 03-18-14, adopted January 19, 2018, is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Good. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve the updated standard before we discuss it further? Jim moves, Moon seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments regarding the standard from board members? All right, Michaela, any comments from any of our Third Mutual members? None? Okay. All right. All right. So we discussed this last month, a little more lengthy. So I guess now it's time for us to vote. We going to be trying to use our screen today? Okay. All right. We'll see how that goes. Yes, now time to vote. Again, we'll be voting as to whether or not to approve the revised Standard 6 for block walls going forward.
Director Brian Reinhardt, can you provide your vote? Perfect. Thank you. Yours didn't work last time either, did it? All right, the voting is done. 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. And we will move on to agenda item 10B, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the 2025 collection and lien enforcement policy. This updated policy was recommended by the Finance Committee. This policy remains consistent with the 2024 version and required only 2 minor modifications. The first being updating the year from 2024 to 2025, and the second being editing the title of Section 12 from 30-day pre-lien notice to simply pre-lien notice. Last month, this board voted to approve this revised policy going forward for 28-day member review and comment, and today we will be voting as to whether or not to accept this revised policy for 2025. And Chris, could you please read the resolution for us?
Yes, 2025 Collection and Lien Enforcement Policy. Whereas, in accordance with California Civil Code, Third Laguna Hills Mutual maintains a collection and lien enforcement policy that outlines the procedures, policies, and practices employed by the mutual in enforcing lien rights or other legal remedies for default in payment of assessments. And whereas legal counsel has reviewed the existing collection and lien enforcement policy and determined that the updated policy complies with civil code requirements and reflects current practices for collection of mutual delinquencies. Now therefore be it resolved July 16, 2024, that the Board of Directors hereby adopts the 2025 Third Laguna Hills Mutual Collection and Lien Enforcement Policy as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further, the policy statement is provided pursuant to the requirements of California Civil Code Section 5310, subparagraphs A and 7, and will be distributed to members in November 2024 as part of the annual policy statement, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution.
Thanks, Chris. Getting your workout today. Can I get a motion to approve the updated policy before we discuss it further? David moves. SK seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Okay. Any comments from a member?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Okay, just doesn't look like it's on this topic. Okay.
Not for this topic.
Okay, great. All right. So again, then now it's now with no comments, it's now time for us to vote. Again, we're voting on whether or not to approve the 2025 revised collection and lien policy.
Director Reinhardt? Okay, thank you.
Okay, voting is done. 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board.
1 second. Michaela, when the Chris reads the resolution, can you put that up on the screen so audience can see it? Can you do that? No?
What is the question?
Put the resolution on the screen so the residents see it, the audience can see it.
Okay. There may be, that's not something we've done, probably not something they're prepared to do today, but we'll look at trying to do that next time around. But in the meantime, we have Chris reading the resolution, so hopefully they can all hear it. Moving on to agenda item 10C, it's for the board to entertain a motion to approve the passive business policy and application. This updated policy was recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. This policy has not been updated since 2001 and has now been updated to remove any references to Mutual 50 since they don't follow this policy. It also clarifies the mutual intent of establishing this policy, and there's some other housekeeping changes making the language consistent throughout the policy. Last month, the board voted to approve this revised policy forward for 28-day member review and comment. And today we will be voting as to whether or not to accept this revised passive business policy and application going forward. Chris, could you read the resolution for us, please?
Okay, revised policy regulating passive home businesses. Whereas Third Mutual's governing documents state that members shall use their units as a private dwelling and for no other purpose. And whereas Third Mutual recognized the need to establish restricted conditions under which a passive business may be conducted, and on August 21st, 2001, the board adopted its policy regulating home occupations. And whereas it is necessary to update the current policy by removing any reference to Laguna Woods Mutual number 50, make clarifying statements that the mutual's intent of the policy is to prescribe a reasonable standard that allows certain businesses to operate in a member's unit without negatively affecting the neighbors and/or the community, and to make other Scrivener administrative updates by making language consistent throughout the policy. Now therefore be it resolved July 16th, 2024, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the revised policy regulating passive home businesses as attached to the official meeting minutes of this corporation, and resolve further that any violation of said policy can result in suspension of the use of GRF facilities and voting privileges and a monetary penalty of up to $500. And resolve further that Resolution M3-01-38, adopted August 21, 2001, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
All right. Thanks again, Chris. Can I get a motion to approve the updated policy before we discuss it further? Ira moves, David seconds. Thank you. Any questions from board members? All right. Paul, any questions? I see none. Any questions from any members? Okay. Okay, so kind of speeding right through this. This is just fine. So again, now it's time to vote. Again, we're voting as to whether or not to approve the passive business policy and application going forward.
And Brad, can I get your vote, please?
Is he doing it?
We're good.
Okay, voting is completed. 10 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thanks again, board. Moving on to agenda item 10D of unfinished business. And it's for the board to entertain a motion to approve the updated rules for board meetings. These updated rules have been recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. These rules have been updated to include member-requested hearings and the meet and confer internal dispute resolution, or IDR, policy, and adding those discussions to the executive session portion of the policy. Last month, the board voted to approve these revised rules forward for 28-day member review and comment, and today we'll be voting as to whether or not to accept these revised rules going forward. Chris, next to the last time, could you read next to the last resolution?
Rules for board meetings. Whereas each owner member of Laguna Woods Village has an ongoing interest in right under California law to participate in the governance of their community. And whereas the Board of Directors of the Third Lagoon Hills Mutual has an equal interest and duty under law to ensure that the management of the community's affairs is carried out professionally and in adherence with the provisions of the Davis-Sterling Act. And whereas the Board of Directors wishes to promote order and regulate meeting times in an even and consistent fashion. Now therefore be it resolved July 16, 2024, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves the attached revised rules for board meetings, and resolve further that Resolution 03-22-134, adopted December 20, 2022, is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Great. Thanks again. Can I get a motion to approve these revised rules before we discuss them further? Reza moves. Chris seconds. Thank you. Any questions, comments from the board? Jules?
I just wish to make a modest protest. We have, the last time I looked, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of rules. We have more rules than you can shake a stick at. It's remarkable how many rules. And this rule is just a huge word salad. We should be more casual. I just don't think everything has to be meticulously put down word for word, and therefore I object. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Jules. Appreciate that. Any other comments? Okay. Kaylee, do you have any comments from any board members? Okay, great. At this time, then we will vote as to whether or not to approve these revised rules for board meetings going forward. All right, I think the voting is done. We have 9 yeses, 1 no, and 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. And moving on to our last unfinished business item, agenda item 10E, for the board to entertain a motion to approve the updates to Third's financial qualifications for purchasing a manor in Third. These updated qualifications were recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, and last month the board voted to put these on to 28-day member review and comment period. And so today we'll be voting as to whether or not to accept these revised financial qualifications effective January 1st, 2025. Chris, could you read this last resolution for us today?
Yes. Revised guidelines for financial qualifications. Whereas Third Laguna Hills Mutual, Third, is formed to manage, operate, and maintain housing at Laguna Woods Village, and whereas Third desires to protect the financial integrity of the corporation, and whereas Third has expressed the need to revise its guidelines for financial qualifications by increasing the minimum net worth and minimum annual income requirements in light of inflationary pressures. Now therefore be it resolved July 16, 2024, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby amends its guidelines for financial qualifications by increasing the minimum net worth and minimum annual income requirements as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that said adjustments shall be effective January 1, 2025, and resolve further that Resolution 03-22-80, adopted July 19, 2022, is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Thanks. Make sure my microphone is on. Sorry about that. SK made a motion to approve the updated qualifications. Moon seconded. Any questions, comments from members of the board? We have staff here to answer them if we do. Jules?
Here again, I must object. The point is that Laguna Woods Village, or Leisure or Seizure World, was originally created as an inexpensive place where people could retire. And it has gotten to the point now when you start to look at the resale values of our manors, we have suddenly become an upscale community, notwithstanding the quality of our pipes. The point is we should be now making it easier for people to obtain some equity in housing, not making it more restrictive. I think this is just it puts us going in the wrong direction. I therefore object. Thank you.
Thank you, Jules. One comment I was going to make is I know when we went through the budget discussion yesterday, one of the budget items proposed by Finance was $120,000 set aside for uncollected debts from our members. So we are seeing that some of our members aren't able to pay, and as a result of that, we all pay for that.
If I may, just to embellish some of my thoughts. Do we know, for example, what the rate of defaults has been? Is it sufficiently serious to represent a threat to our financial well-being in the event that a small number of people simply can't afford to pay? And if they can't afford to pay, there are remedies that we have that will always leave us in a position where we are not financially prejudiced.
So I would just make a comment on the last, that there are remedies, but they don't always make the mutual whole. The bank comes first, so if it comes to us having to foreclose or something because somebody can't pay, we don't always get our money back. So just want to make sure that you're aware of that.
Yes, of course, but the point that, I mean, there's a difference between a small number and a serious number.
Okay.
That's my point.
Okay.
In other words, I think we can afford to incur a very modest financial cost in order to be fairer to all of our people. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. SK, you have
Yes, whether one person can pay or not, it's not the matter. Whether you can pay HOA or not, that's the matter. And also, I don't like to see all other residents get penalty for that reason. And I don't like one person we covered or two people we covered. I don't like that at all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? I think as Michaela has mentioned, we have some member comments, and then we can continue our discussion. Okay, Michaela?
Yes, we have 7 member comments that were emailed into us. The first one is from Cynthia Case, and they stated, as a new owner in Third Mutual, I understand and support efforts to ensure that new members are financially able to pay their dues. However, I would like to propose a middle path to ownership. For example, if liquid assets are at least $125,000, but yearly income is a minimum of $75,000, that would be enough to qualify. I believe the assets bar in such a case would be set too high at $200,000. Speaking for myself, I would not have qualified under the proposed requirements. While my yearly income is almost 3 times the minimum under the proposed rule, my assets would not have qualified as I elected to pay cash for my manor. Laguna Woods is one of the last reasonably affordable communities for 55 plus in Southern California. I would hate to see it become an enclave only for the wealthy, especially in these uncertain times with exorbitant housing costs and high interest rates. I hope we will endeavor to keep home ownership in Third Mutual available and affordable to qualified applicants. There is a middle way. Next email was written in from Valerie Sand, and they stated, I am highly in agreement with the proposal to raise financial requirements. In a community this old and built with the insufficient building codes of the 1960s, our community is and will be needing lots of expensive upgrades. This is just an unfortunate fact. With the rate of inflation soaring, we need financial requirements to keep up with reality. We don't want to have residents like we do now face hardships in the future. This is not a low-income community, but it is an old community that continuously needs repairs and upgrades. We want our residents to be comfortable financially in the future as well as the time they buy in. Next member email is from Nancy, I think the last name is Nancy Kirkpatrick. They stated, as mentioned in your proposal, numerous social and economic factors have evolved since the minimum income and asset requirements were updated. The inventory of affordable housing has dwindled. The median sales prices for a single-family home in California is $843,000, according to the California Association of Realtors in September of 23. Inflation has surged, making some goods and services much less affordable. Wages have stalled in some sectors of the economy, and the insurance markets in California have become more restrictive. It seems that the very drastic changes you wish to put in place, making up for years of no changes, will actually make all of the above even worse for some new potential new members of the community, and in some ways for current owners. The current members would be making forced sacrifices to help lower the median sales price, since these changes will shrink the buyer pool and therefore cause Laguna Woods housing prices to drop. That is very admirable of the HOA to offer these sacrifices on behalf of their members for the sake of the citizens of California, but not one most of us would likely ask for, especially those who brought who bought recently for, say, $556,000 in comparison to those who purchased 23 years ago for $164,000. Recent purchasers who must sell soon for one reason or another could potentially actually lose money on the sale. And with fewer buyers and perhaps the wish to not lose money, that could contribute to the dwindling of the inventory of homes, not help it. Given that community service staff acknowledged it did not see a need to adjust net worth requirements at this time, nor the income requirements, it does raise the question as to why this is necessary to take such a huge leap all at one time. Perhaps a much smaller incremental change would be more appropriate. And add to this added cost of insurance, if one can even get it, is another potential damper on home prices. Previous HOAs we have been members of took care of those difficulties by setting up special coverage that insurance companies accepted proof of, had to show that certain actions or installations were in place. Has Laguna Woods done anything to help mitigate this? Right now, for some owners, their annual rates have tripled or quadrupled, and some may be at risk of not being able to get insurance at all. Also, what do you do when someone is below the income requirement but much above in assets, or vice versa? Do you have ways to take that into account? These are our comments. These changes seem unnecessarily drastic, unnecessary, and only detrimental to current and future owners. The next email was written in from John Sturdivant, and they stated, "Dear Board of Directors, I am writing in response to the proposal to increase the income and net worth requirements of Third Mutual. I'm not only an owner of a unit in Third, I am a real estate broker with over 29 years experience selling real estate in Orange County, inclusive of Laguna Woods Village. I also have a degree in business administration with a minor in finance and have served on condominium associations in the past. There is no need to increase the income and asset requirement to purchase. I actually feel like the village has lost sight of the purpose and vision of being a carefree place for seniors to reside. Let's not forget people who have worked hard and are responsible and can easily live on a tight budget. I see it all the time as I work in so many senior communities. People on a fixed income with equity in their home and $125,000 in the bank can live perfectly fine. There are plenty of people who live on far less than $45,000 per year and can manage to pay their property tax and HOA fees and still provide for themselves. The thought of this increase seems discriminatory and elitist. It's unfortunate that we don't have board members who are living on $45,000 or less. I really do not want to see the wonderful people that I meet who work so hard to getting into Laguna Woods Village be turned away. The rules already upset people as they think it's crazy that they can afford to pay cash for their home and someone is going to tell them how much money they need to make and have in the bank. The board states that this requirement is to help assure that members pay their dues. I think this is not an appropriate approach. Why is the board not mentioning to these members that the association has foreclosure rights that can be enforced if a member defaults on their dues payments? As with homeowner association, if a member defaults on payment of their dues, the association may foreclose on the member's home and recover their back dues and costs of the process. Make members aware of the fact. Don't impose new income and asset requirements, please. Because of this fact, there really is not a need for income and asset requirements. The other senior communities in South County don't have income and asset requirements, and they have higher property values and still have great members and happy residents. I'm not saying we need to remove these restrictions. What I'm saying is that they need to be minimal. I have thought the $45,000 increase back in 2003 was ridiculous. It is not time to impose more restrictions on applicants. Additionally, if one were to retire today at age 62, when you can first draw Social Security, the maximum benefit is $2,700 per month. If one were to retire full retirement age in 2024, which is 67, the maximum benefit would be $3,800 per month. If the government believes you can retire sufficiently on $45,000 per year, the board of Third Mutual should believe that as well. Respectfully, John Sturdivant. Next email is from Tanya McElney. They stated, as an owner of a unit in Third Laguna Hills Mutual, I'm extremely concerned as to the proposed financial requirement increases being considered. I would like to know how many uncollected HOA dues there have been over the past 5 years. The board of directors should consider the benchmark established for financial requirement increases in previous years, and that should be followed for any proposed increases now. Actions like these can cause irreparable damage, and it would be such a shame to see anything negative be attached to a long-established senior retirement community. such as Laguna Woods Village. I can't imagine who will be able to purchase a property in Laguna Woods Village going forward. Remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This community is over 60 plus years of age. It is not new construction. I'm a former employee of the former management company. I grew up in this community and have loved telling people about its unique history and retirement concept as designed by Mr. Cortez for the peaceful enjoyment of the senior population. I am hopeful that cooler heads will prevail. I appreciate the opportunity to express my feelings and knowledge as I worked in Leisure World for 32 plus years, so I too have history with this beautiful community. Next email was from Cheryl Finnick, and they stated, I agree with the proposed increase of financial qualifications of potential buyers of Third Mutual Manors. And the final email sent in was from Madeline Whiteman. They stated, Dear board member, I strongly encourage you not to raise the financial requirements at this time. Raising the net worth requirement from $125,000 to $200,000 is an increase of 60%, while increasing the income requirement to $60,000 is a 33.3% increase. While you used inflation rates to make your argument to the board, there may be other numbers you might want to consider. Comparing closed sales of condos in 2021 to 2023, there were 20% less sales in 2023 than 2021, and the median closed sale price was down 7%, even though there was a 17% increase in the median price for 2023. We have had an increase of dues during that time of 16.17%, and for the 2024, they increased another 4.47% over 2023. In the letter dated June 19th from Mark Laws, he stated, if you think your monthly assessments are too high, and they will most likely be increasing for 2025, it is the third board directors who determine what our monthly assessment will be for the mutual. The inflation rate has been 3% and 4% this year, affecting us all. I went on Social Security website and found that the average monthly payment for retired workers for May 2024 was $1,916. That is approximately $23,000 per year. Not everyone has a large private pension on top of Social Security benefits. Not every household has two income earners. Today, many single women are buying homes. Today many single women are buying homes. There is an idea if people can't buy, they will rent in our community. That may no longer even be an option since there is a cap on rentals at 30%, and I understand that we may be at that number or close to it. Making financial requirements tighter and high HOA dues will not encourage sales. Buyers have had a hard time qualifying at today's amounts. Ask an escrow or real estate agent. Owners like myself will not be happy about this should I need to sell my unit. This will lessen the pool of buyers. Is this direction the board really wants to go? Please consider this change. And that is all for the member comments. Mr. Hack, are you requesting to speak for this item? Yes. Okay. And then we do have one in-person speaker as well.
That's great. Good morning.
Good morning. So I am not speaking on behalf of the Gardenville Association. I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I sat through the budget meeting yesterday, and to me it's pretty clear that we need to be paying more to be able to keep this community in good condition. And the problem I see is that if we continue to have people buying into the community who do not have the capacity to pay additional monthly assessments, we're stuck. We can't make the repairs we need to make. We can't set up the reserves we need to set up. We were even talking about doing the relining of the pipelines. So I'm thinking in terms of what's best for the community. If we starve ourselves, that's going to be a much more negative effect on the value of our properties than if we instead say we need to set a new level here so that people who are buying in the community have the ability to pay higher levels of assessments in order to maintain this community as well as it is today without it deteriorating. That's my concern. And so if we don't change the requirements for getting into the community, then we will continue to have people coming in to live here who do not have the ability to pay more in monthly assessments, and we're stuck. I feel for people who don't have the wherewithal, but I don't think that's our responsibility. I think our responsibility is to protect this community. So I'm in favor of it.
Thank you. All right. Any further comments from board members based upon anything they've heard? Okay, got it. All right. Then I guess it is now time for us to vote. Again, we're voting as to whether or not to approve these revised financial qualifications starting in January 2025. Missing one? Okay, all right. So the vote was 9-4 making this change, 1 against. I voted for it mainly for echoing what Mr. Hack had to say. So thank you. And thank you, board. All right, now we're moving on to new business, agenda item 11. We have 5 new business items to discuss and vote on today as well. Agenda item 11A is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of Third Mutual's traffic rules and regulations. These updates have been recommended by the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. The rules were reviewed and updated for clarity, as well as eliminating the chance of getting a ticket the day after a resident's car registration becomes out of date. We've seen situations where the DMV has been late in providing registration stickers, as well as situations where residents are out of town for more than a week or two, and they couldn't update their stickers in a timely manner. So that's kind of started the process of making these changes. Today we'll be voting as to whether or not to submit these changes forward for 28-day member review and comment. We'll start by a motion. Can I get a motion to place these updated rules on 28-day member review and comment? Ira moves, Jewel seconds. Thank you both. Any questions, comments from the board? We do have Officer Lurie here to answer any if we do, but we don't have to. Okay. All right. Any member comments on this topic? Okay. All right. So again, today we're just moving to put these on 28-day member review and comment, and I'll make sure that these get sent in one of my weekly newsletters here over the next couple of weeks so that people can review them. Yes, so with no comments, I guess we're going to go ahead and vote as to whether or not to submit these updated rules forward for 28-day member review and comment.
And Director Breinhardt did just leave
Okay.
about a minute or so ago, so I marked him as absent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're now down to 9 directors here today, and we're 9 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions to put this on 28-day member review and comment period. Thanks, board. Agenda item 11B is for the board to entertain a motion. Thanks, Officer Lurie, to approve the a revision of standard 18 for gutters and downspouts. This updated standard was recommended by the ACSC, and today we will also be voting as to whether or not to submit this updated standard forward for 28-day member review and comment. I'll go ahead here and ask, does staff have, normally for these kind of standards, I tend to ask staff if they have any opening comments for us regarding this. So Alan, looks like Bart's looking at you. You do a good job of summarizing what these changes are for the board, so appreciate that.
Certainly. Good morning. It's best summarized on the discussion item. So this proposed change is we are updating the design and installation guidelines, which allow for better functionality. We've been working closely with the maintenance department, who has to deal with dry rot replacing the gutter. So we're working to update the standards to make that a better functionality. We've improved the details of the gutter manufacturing themselves. We're allowing seamless gutters, not proportional gutters. We've made improvements to the building maintenance aspect and drainage aspect. And in a general comment, as we go through the standards, we're looking to make them more user-friendly. So we're adding definitions, which we've done to this standard as well. So somebody who perhaps doesn't know all the terminology, it'll help them to do a quick review and understand what's going on. So we've added that section. And I'm happy to ask or answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Alan at this time? Okay. Thanks. Have a seat not too far, because I'll be calling you up again at the next one for our next agenda item. But in the moment, have a seat. Great. Oh, Moon, do you have a question after all?
One question. It's not that. So we are making resolution without SIM and all that. If a resident install it, is there going to be alteration? So the mutual not going to be responsible at all, and only resident responsible, or third mutual because you will recommend it? Is that third mutual responsible if something goes wrong?
The members will be responsible or pay for the changes to the updates in the guttering system. The maintenance department, as I understand it, will be in an annual program for cleaning and keeping them up to date.
Yes.
But the gutters themselves will become the responsibility of the member that installs them.
Yeah, so this will be treated as alteration.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Any questions from any members on this topic today? Okay. All right. Well, I guess I first have to get a motion, don't I? Sorry, I'm jumping ahead. If we're moving along so quickly, I jumped ahead. Can I get a motion to place this updated standard on to 28-day member review and comment? Ira moves, Jim seconds. Thanks. Any further comment, questions? Okay, I don't believe we have any member comments, so it's now time for us to vote as to whether or not to put the updated standard 18 for gutters and downspouts forward for 28-day member review and comment. And Alan, just a comment while we're voting, I like the new definitions. I saw that started in some recent things, so that's looking good. Appreciate that. Looks like we're 9 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions to put this updated standard onto 28-day member review and comment period. And we'll now move on to agenda item 11C, which is for the board to entertain a motion to approve the revision of standard 34 for windows and window attachments. The standard was also recommended to be updated by the ACSC, and today we'll also be voting as to whether to put it forward for a member comment period. Alan, do you have any summary for us again?
Real quick, so we're trying to, as we update standards, we're trying to take a look at the entire community, and we are taking a look at how do we maintain or upkeep the architectural integrity of our community. So this particular standard was undertaken with that in mind. How do we maintain or upkeep the architectural integrity? So we've looked at the revisions have been made with that in mind. We've updated the criteria. There's a lot of energy efficient requirements out there that we've incorporated. We're also updated window egress requirements for bedrooms. So we're just, well, that's it. Unless there's any questions, I can answer that.
Okay. Don't see any. And again, I appreciate the fact that you're also trying to work more closely with the M&C department to make sure that these standards
Right.
Not only support our members, but are being able to maintain our buildings and that kind of thing. So thanks for that. All right. Thanks. Can I get a motion to place updated standard onto 20-day member review and comment? I'll look this side this time. Chris moves, David seconds. Thanks. Any questions from board members? Okay. Any questions from members? None? Okay. Now time to vote. So again, we're voting to submit updated standard 34 for windows and window attachments for a member review and comment period.
Director Zalon, can you give your vote?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So 9 yeses, 0 noes, 0 abstentions. Thank you, board. Agenda item 11D is for the board to entertain a motion to approve a concrete walkway alignment for building 3101. This project was recommended by the Maintenance and Construction Committee. Just to let the board know, I will be abstaining from the discussion and the voting on this agenda item, as I know the couple that have submitted this request. Does anyone from staff have any opening comments for us regarding this request?
Thank you, Mr. President. Board members, just a brief introduction to the item. Ms. Renee Greenman, who resides at 3101D, requested that the board consider realigning the common area walkway that is laid out directly in front of her manor, in front of her windows, goes through the front door and then makes a 90-degree turn under her porch and over to the rest of the common area walkway. Staff looked at the alignment and it looked at the request and recommends that the walkway be realigned away from the front door for this manner. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions, Ira?
So I have a few, Bart. Has this been done before, and is this big particular building different than any other that is basically the same?
What makes it unique in this case is the topography of the street. Via Serena kind of slopes down, and there's a slope directly in front of these two buildings, 3101 and 3100. So there's no direct access from the street, so they do come up indirectly onto this walkway to make their way as one of the path of travels to 3100 C building, and not a direct access from the street. And that's one of the differences about this particular situation. It's the slope that's between the street and these manors.
But don't most other six-packs have a situation where you're walking, or many, I should say, where you're walking by someone else's front door to get to your front door? Isn't that common in many of these 6 to a building? I think even in Jules' building, is that way. We have 2 downstairs and 4 upstairs. To get to the back units, you must walk by somebody else's front door.
I did not look at the other ones specifically, but in looking at this one in particular, when you walk by and you go all the way up to the front door and make that turn, it is quite intrusive as it currently is laid out.
So wouldn't this normally be treated as a variance, and perhaps where the homeowner would pay for the realignment, and perhaps the association would be taking care of the maintenance, because this is something different than the way it was built? And I'm just trying to prevent a precedent from being started, that's all.
The board may choose to direct staff to go that route.
Okay. Jules and then Moon?
There is a big difference, Ira, between the six-pack that I live in and this place in particular. When you look at this place, there is a certain element of privacy that an individual building has. When you reroute people to get close to a building that otherwise we would assume there would be a certain amount of privacy attached to, then it becomes intrusive. I mean, there's a big difference between a place like 3101, whatever it is, and an apartment house, for example. There's a difference between an apartment house in which people go by your door hundreds of times a day, a six-pack in which people may go by my door twice a week, maybe once a day at the absolute most, and something like this. So I think, I don't think there's a danger in our setting a precedent because, we haven't seen any, I mean, if we do see abuse of the process, we could always reconsider it. But at this point, just because we have one clearly intrusive situation, I think M&C is completely justified in doing this. Thank you.
Thanks. SK? Moons, are you next?
This was requested by
Microphone.
Excuse me. This was requested by resident. We are approving it. And as Ira said, is that considered as an alteration? And the resident pay for it, or third mutual pay for it, and the third mutual is responsible to maintaining as well?
If the board approves staff recommendation, it will remain a common area walkway to be maintained by the mutual. If the direction of the board is to ask the member to pay for the improvements, then it will become an alteration via the variance process.
I didn't get it.
So the way the staff report is that it would cost the mutual about $10,000 to make this change, and then the mutual would own it. He's saying that we have an option, as we always do as a board, of accepting the change, but asking the member to pay for it.
So my question is, it's a resident requested, we are approving it, her or his request. So it should be resident responsibility, just like any other alteration, we should treat that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. And sorry, is SK was first and then Jim?
Yeah, that was the part of the question, how much it will cost and who is going to do it. Are we going to contract outside or we do ourselves in-house? That's my question.
The estimate that is provided for you, the $10,000, is based on the prices bid by a current contractor that we have.
So are we going to ask a contract out this job?
Yes, as proposed, it will be for a contractor to perform the work.
Jim?
Yeah, I might suggest that we look at this from a little bit different aspect, that we look at it as the member trying to do it through the mutual, and that the mutual would maintain, but the mutual would contract out, so it's done to the mutual standards. So it'd be just like chargeable service. But once the chargeable service is done through the mutual and through our contractor, so it's done to our specifications, the mutual then would take responsibility for it. But the member would bear the cost of the actual sidewalk being realigned. And that way, if it was she wouldn't have to go through all the process of variance, everything else, because again, it's being built on common area, and the mutual would take responsibility for it, but the member would pay for the initial installation to the mutual standards. And that, to me, would be a solution that could be done.
Yeah, I'll go along with Jim's compromise. Actually, I won't treat it as alteration and he or she have to maintaining, but this is on the ground, and I'll take Jim's compromise.
SK, you want to say something?
Yeah, I concur with that.
Oh, okay. And Reza?
Yeah, I guess that was it was the MNC, so the owner came and made the case, and the case was that the routing through this process wasn't done really right at the beginning, and that's why it goes around the building. So they want to see if the mutual correct this routing that wasn't done right from the beginning. And I guess the committee listened to both staff and the member and approve, and now they send it to the full board. It's the full board's prerogative to decide how they're going to do it. But that's what how it came through the MNC.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks. An update. So I guess next might be a motion, Jim, and since I see a couple seconds and thirds or something like that.
I'd make a motion to follow this procedure, but for the financial analysis, the member pay it as a chargeable service and doesn't have to go through the process of variance, because the mutual will take over responsibility once the mutual's contractor builds it to our specifications.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any further discussion on that? You want to come up to speak, Member Muchnick?
The only comment I would have related to this is that if you approve this, you get the agreement of the member that they're willing to accept it as a chargeable service before you go ahead and start any process.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay. Got it. So tweak that motion ever so slightly is what you're suggesting. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, so the motion is to bill the members' costs, assuming they agree to that, I guess, essentially. Okay. Any thanks for the clarification. Any further comments on that?
That's all
okay.
From the meeting.
Okay. So any other member comments on this topic? Okay. And I don't think the members are here. Okay. So I guess we'll vote on whether on that motion to.
Before we vote, are we going to communicate them this resolution then?
Yeah, we'll get the motion included that they would need to approve this motion if we approve it.
Okay.
If we approve it, then they need to approve it as well.
Okay.
Otherwise, they're starting
Thank
over
you.
again, I guess.
Then I will vote.
Okay. All right, so 7 yeses, 1 abstention, and 1 no. All right. So the motion passed. Will Bart, I guess you'll take that back to the member, see if they approve of that, and if not, they can bring it back forward to M&C committee and try again somehow. Okay. All right, moving on to our last new business item is for some minor committee updates. The major one is making sure Andy's off all committees. I think we removed Jim from one because it's not meeting again until after he's off the board, and we also are changing the chair of the landscape committee to SK.
On the media and communications, are we upgrading Moon to an actual member and not an alternate?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. Alternate just fine at the moment. Can I get a motion to approve the updated committee assignments before we discuss them further? David moves, Chris seconds. Any suggested changes? Maybe we don't need to make that change today, just because they're not going to meet till October anyway. Okay. Any objections to these committee assignments from the board? Okay, Jules objects. All right. Okay, got it. That's all right. Is that good enough for a vote? All right. 8 yeses, 1 no.
No, wait, I have a comment.
Oh, okay, got it. Great.
Yes, I should have made this objection long ago. This is a perfect example of how this joint is run or not run. Just for historical purposes, when I got on this board in 2022, as a result of the successful recall of 2 board members, I was on 3 committees. I was on the traffic committee as a traffic judge. I was on the resident policy committee, and I was on the executive committee, the disciplinary committee. As a result of my being on the disciplinary committee, I came to learn that what I considered at least a number of violations of members' rights, and I made a substantial objection to that. Rather than cleaning up, and as a consequence, I proposed a Members' Bill of Rights to at least bring members' rights into what I considered harmony with the American Constitution. I was rewarded by being removed by Mr. Laws of my participation in any of those committees. The point is that I have lost my voice on these committees, and I believe the members have lost my voice in these committees. And so I object substantially to any series of committees that continues to prevent me from having a say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Let me just rebut that a little bit. From the Executive Hearing Committee had nothing to do with the Bill of Rights that you bring up. It was that you continue to accuse the compliance team of fraudulent activities without any proof. And since they're the committee that we work closely with on executive hearings, they're the staff that we work closely with on executive hearing as well as resident policy and compliance. It was not fruitful to have you be on there attacking them every meeting. From a traffic hearings perspective, it was actually the other members who felt that you attacked them as well for some of the decisions they made, some other committee members that asked me to remove you, which I did once I found out some of the comments that you made there. So, there's a way of being on committees and being diplomatic and stating things, and that's something that I feel you continue to still need to learn, Jules. So that is why. But thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Go ahead. I'll let you one last time, and then I'll be done too.
Just one point, not to argue, but to suggest that there was no evidence is absolutely is simply not so. There was an inordinate amount of evidence that was put to the board privately.
They put to the board, and the board felt that you didn't have it. So. Again, your opinion is not equal fact. Moon, yes?
I don't know about the executive hearing committee. That is a small committee to a lot of disciplinary, the decisions. But we have 2 meetings. One is this one, open meeting of all members. And another one used to be closed session of all these members. But now we have an executive committee. We made the committee, and then we can exclude certain members. So certain member has not been able to attend and represent his constituency who vote for him at the closed session. And I don't know all the details, what inspired in between, but that member needed to represent his people but we are excluding their representative voice, limiting it. I'm not so sure this is a correct way to run the business here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Chris?
In response to your comment about excluding members from the executive committee, it was done so because the member was censured for disclosing confidential information. And we went to legal counsel and talked about it, and we followed the advice of legal counsel. One of the things you have to remember is we sign a code of conduct when we're elected to the board, as well as a confidentiality agreement. We are not to disclose it. And once a member does that, it affects all of the board. It makes us look like we're not adhering to our code of conduct. In this case, the member did so. We voted to censure him, and that is the reason for it.
Moon and Jules?
As I understand, the certain member was sanctioned because of that confidentiality problem previous term. When he got re-elected by the member of our resident, and he has not violated ever since. So whatever his previous term and the new term, and he hasn't violated anything, we are sanctioning him, which he did not violate at all. Thank you.
Thanks. Moon? Jules, I mean?
Just to get back to what Chris said, I disclosed a completely improper act, a fraudulent act of our compliance department to exactly 2 people who had a reason to know they were candidates for the board. Our lawyer, on the other hand, is responsible for the disclosure of all the activity of 2 executive committee meetings and 2 board meetings. No one has complained about our lawyers disclosing that information. The whole idea is just absurd. The matter will ultimately be resolved in a more public manner.
Thank you, Jules. Appreciate that update. Yeah.
Just as a response to Moon's comment, the resolution stands unless it's rescinded. Whether the member is reelected to the board in a different term, the resolution stands.
Thanks. Yeah. I don't know, did we vote on this or okay, I thought so. Yeah, I think it was 8 yeses and 1 no. Thank you, Jules. Appreciate that. Thank you, Moon, for your comments as well. All good stuff. We're now moving on to agenda item 12, it's, where the members of this board will share our monthly committee status updates, starting with a report of the Finance Committee. David, our new treasurer, have at it.
Thank you so much. I'd like to deliver the treasurer's report for July 16, 2024. The financial reports that we'll be taking a look at cover the period through May 31st, 2024. The slide that you see up on your screen right now shows our total revenue and total expense. So you can see from the slide, total revenue was roughly $19.7 million. Expenses were roughly $17.1 million, resulting in net revenue of $2.6 million for the period. And next slide, please. Finance keeps a close eye on the operating portion of the financial results because the operating portion shows how we're doing right now. The operating fund shows a deficit for the period of roughly $273,000. The table shows how much of our revenue went into operations with $11.6 million coming in from assessments and $922,000 coming in from non-assessment revenue. You compare this to the operating expenditures that we're showing of $12.8 million. And for the financially inclined out there, the operating expenditures don't include depreciation. Next slide, please. Okay, the table on this slide takes the full income statements and compares those reports to our budget for the period. What you can see is the assessment revenue, actual versus budget, and the variance. So what you can see from this slide is the third end of the period, a little worse than budget, a little negative variance by $62,000 when you combine both our operating and our reserve revenue and expenses. Next slide, please. Okay, so this gives us a breakout on the variances. You can see that we have three favorable variances and then two unfavorable variances. The three favorable variances, employee compensation, and that favorable variance, that comes mainly from landscaping and general service departments, mainly due to open positions that VMS hasn't been able to fill yet. The impacted areas include grounds maintenance, irrigation, janitorial, and streets and sidewalks. VMS is in process of recruiting to fill these positions, and ground maintenance contracted our shrub maintenance, some of it, to outside vendors for the pruning weeding cycle while they're continuing to fill the open positions. Second favorable variance is investment income. That is primarily from our investments yielding us more than we'd expected. Again, for the financially inclined out there. The yield curve, which normally the longer you go, the more you make. Well, right now, it's upside down. It's inverted. And now, the shorter you go, the more you get. And I won't bore you with why that is. But what it means is, since we have to invest very conservatively and keep our money invested in very short, regular maturities, it means that we're making a good bit more than we had expected to make. And that's how we get the $345,000 favorable variance. Third favorable variance is in outside services. This is due primarily to timing for prior to paint landscaping, water lines, copper pipe remediation, and tree maintenance. And this is a timing issue. We budget for these expenses evenly throughout the year, but the expenses don't occur on an even basis. Some months they're higher than others. And that's what we're seeing right here. So the favorable variance on outside services, that may continue, but we would expect it to even out as the year progresses. Now we get to the two unfavorable variances. One of the unfavorable variances has to do with legal fees, and that's favorable by $147,000. And that resulted mainly from more ongoing resident-related legal matters than had been expected at the beginning of the year. So we'll be keeping an eye on that over the rest of the year to see if it levels back out. Last item on the unfavorable variance is the fees and charges to residents. and that's unfavorable by $883,000. Again, this one is a timing issue. We're working through a fairly large backlog of water damage restoration issues, and we're having hearings. This dates back ultimately to the COVID pandemic. We plan to have this backlog worked down within the next year or so. And what you're seeing right now is that we're working this down, but we still have this unfavorable variance because we're booking these amounts as we do the hearings, but they haven't been collected yet. So that ultimately should even itself out. Next slide, please. Okay. In this table, what you're looking at is the non-assessment revenues. The revenues that have been owned outside the monthly HOA dues. Year to date by category, and we've compared them again to the current year's budget and the prior year's year-to-date actuals, so that you can see how we're doing next to prior years. Our largest revenue-generating categories as of May 31st were investment income, which we talked about, residence maintenance fees, and sales and leasing fees. So non-assessment revenues totaled $1.5 million through the reporting period. Next slide, please. Okay, in this table, we present the expenses to date by category, and we compare them to the current year's budget and the prior year's year-to-date actuals. Our largest expense categories as of May 31st, 2024 were employee compensation and related, insurance, and outside services. These expenses totaled $17.1 million through the reporting period. Next slide, please. This slide shows our non-operating fund balance on May 31, 2024, which was $35.8 million. Our year-to-date contributions and interest, that's the money going in, were $7.2 million, while the year-to-date expenditures were $4.3 million. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we compare those non-operating fund balances to the historical fund balances for the past 5 years. So you can see the trend of where we're going with these non-operating fund balances. The average was $31.6 million. Third, Laguna Hills Mutual. We've been committed to supporting our reserve requirements and to having more contingency funds for unexpected events. This is going to have to continue. As our buildings age, as we have to do more work on our buildings, we are working on bringing up those reserves so that we have enough cushion that we're going to be able to make those repairs as they come due. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a slide that shows our resale history for the prior 2 years and for our current year. Through May 31, 2024, the total resales in Third Mutual totaled 146 manors, which is 13 resales higher than the prior year for the same time period. So you can see things are picking up just a bit. The average year-to-date resale price for a Third Mutual Manor was $627,000. That's $91,000 higher than the prior year for the same time period. And I'll take any questions.
I'm sorry. The fee and the charge to resident was almost 900 grand. We make a negative. And so I look at it as we are no longer significantly decreasing backlog of maintenance and moisture intrusion, all that. And that come up with about 800 grand. So to me, the maintenance, all that is ongoing. It just doesn't stop that day, right? We had a significant backlog. We made a lot, we couldn't collect it for a long time, but we were able to collect it. But it is still going on, so still there should be some kind of level. We are collecting or we are charging them all that.
In other words, the ongoing, not the backlog, but the ongoing water restoration.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yesterday at the finance committee, it became zero. So I was shouting at them, and right off it became zero. And then I think Jimmy was correcting me all that. But anyhow, still there will be some kind of revenue keep coming into it, or we are incurring them and then we are getting reimbursed.
You're
so it cannot be just the zero.
Yeah, you're absolutely right here. There are two different streams. There's the backlog stream of revenue, and then there's the ongoing stream of revenue. Now, as we work down that backlog, that zero represents the backlog of the balances that we will ultimately still have to work through. That'll get down to zero, which means we've got the backlog done. The ongoing, and we still have them. Now, what's happening right now is we're not handling as many of those as we normally would because we're trying to get this backlog down to zero. We're trying to work this through, but we are being mindful of the current ones that we have. And you're going to see those picking up as we get this backlog closer to zero, and as we get a little bit more room to keep moving on our current ones.
Yeah. One other question in same issue. So this is only one time we see it at the May 31st, and then next month we don't see this huge 800 grand.
This reflects activity as of and up to May 31st. So the next time we do this, we'll have it through June 30th.
More ongoing problem, not the backlog.
Well, the background, because we need to keep track of that backlog as we work it down to zero.
Okay.
Or work it up to zero.
Depending on how one...
which way you want to go.
Depending on how one looks. But the thing to keep in mind here, there are two steps to the process. One is getting these water restoration claims to the point where we can book them on the financial sheets as obligations that are owed to us. We can't do that until we have the hearings. So we'll book those, and those are going to show up as unfavorable variances when we do, even though it's actually a good thing, right? So as we then collect those, then that'll start showing up as, in the current income, they'll start showing up as favorable variances. But keep in mind, it's this backlog that we're working down, and you got to kind of mentally match up the revenue and the expense there.
I understand, but I think the budget processing and the finance department thought we're going to collect still some more backlog, the money, but that's disappeared now. So if we have a huge negative, the May. So my question is already now May's end and then June and July, we are not going to see this huge, the disappearing or zero.
No, these aren't going to disappear next month. You'll see the variances from the backlog being worked down probably another year.
Okay. Jim?
Yeah, and we might be just using nomenclature that is confusing.
Yeah.
It's really reimbursement. It's not revenue. We've already spent this money fixing the problem. It gets fixed immediately, and we're getting reimbursement when the member is found responsible.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions?
All right, excellent. Thank you, David. Good job. Next, we have the ACSC. Jim?
Okay, the ACSC met on July 8th, and the 28-day meetings we've already put on that happened today. But in addition to that, we have the standard 41A solar panels. We had got also standard 41. We've got a 16-page legal opinion, and so we hope to, by next third board meeting, have that revised so that those standards are in alignment with what legal opinion is. In addition to that, we still have patio and balcony covers, standard 22, standard 37, patio, balcony, awnings and covers. We also have standard 41C, solar panels, carports, and patio covers, and revision to variance neighbor awareness notice. And we continue to work on all those things to make the standards better, more informative, and also aligned with current codes. And our next meeting will be August 12th, 2024, 9:30 a.m. in the boardroom.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Do you have any updates regarding the third Maintenance and Construction Committee, Reza?
Yeah, thank you. The Maintenance Construction met on July 1st at 1:30 p.m. The item was discussed was first a department head update. There was about the building 3500, ramp parking and a stripping update on that. The staff talked to the members, and I think members now agree with the existing situation and not asking anything further. We talked about the M&C budget and funding level for the epoxy lining and copper pipes, and that's going to be pushed back to the finance to see what they're going to do with it. It's going to be increased or reduced. That's up in the air right now. The Gate 11 seepage update on that one. There is an RFP going out for the for the different area that what it is right now. There is one in Brazo, and that was okay, but there's other areas that they're putting an RFP out. The RFP, I think I don't know. I think they're going to be discussed in the next meeting. On the project log, we look at the building 3101, which we discussed it, previously here, and the decision was made. The battery storage system for EV charging in 3-story building, that was postponed till Mr. Reinhardt is back, because that was his brainchild, and we need to look at that. The asphalt program, the contract, we discussed the contract in the closed meeting. Waste lawn epoxy liner, the RFP was posted on July 8th for the review and comment. And the next meeting is on September 9 at 9:30. I made one mistake. I mean, the seepage didn't have RFP, so I'm sorry. Okay. There is no RFP on that.
Okay. Thanks. All right. Next, we'll hear about the Landscape Committee. For me, the Landscape Committee last met on Thursday, July 11th, for its regular monthly meeting. And during that meeting, Kurt provided an update on the landscape project log and confirmed that all landscape activities are proceeding within schedule and within budget. Kurt also updated the committee on the new quality control effort underway and stated that it seems to be improving quality of workmanship already from a landscaping perspective. Hopefully you've all seen some of that. Kurt also updated the committee on the status of the landscape performance review, which is an effort for an outside contractor to review the landscape team's processes against industry best practices. And their goal is to identify possible improvements for our landscaping team and their procedures. The committee addressed several resident-requested landscape modifications. We also discussed the potential of providing some sort of rebate for members who pay to have their own turf removed rather than waiting for the mutual to do it. We discussed some guidelines about artificial turf since as turf is being removed, some members may want to install artificial turf, and the Landscape Committee is open to that on a case-by-case basis. And finally, the committee approved a pilot project for the mutual to provide small clippings bins to members who often create clipping pickup requests. The intent of this pilot is to see if these bins can speed the Friday clipping pickup efforts of staff and thus allow them more time for other landscape work. The Landscape Committee will next meet on Thursday, August 1st at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. Do you have any updates on the Water Conservation Committee?
Just briefly, our last meeting was in April. Our guests were the Water District General Manager, Dennis Cafferty, and Shirley Lee, who is an executive in a private landscaping company. She gave us an eye-opening discussion of the various ways that we can not only save water, but obtain local and state rebates. She offered to audit and analyze all our water bills in order to make some proposals. Unfortunately, VMS seems wary of providing that kind of information to a third party, and as a consequence, her offer right now cannot be taken advantage of. We're hoping to get that changed shortly.
Good. Thanks. And when is the next meeting, do you know?
The next meeting actually was called off because we could not get that information, and therefore she's unable to provide what I consider the most important job that we have, which is conservation and rebates. So there won't be another meeting for another 3 months.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks for that update. And what can you tell us about the Third Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, Chris?
Yes, the committee last met on Tuesday, June 25th. And during that meeting, the committee discussed minor comments to the traffic rules and regulations, then approved it for submission to the board for approval. The committee also discussed the lease limit wait list policy, where the committee agreed to table the matter for further discussion at the July meeting. Committee also discussed the impact of implementing a new lease limit from 30% to 25%, where the committee elected to forward the matter on to legal counsel for review. The committee will next meet on Tuesday, July 23rd at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom, where the committee will continue to discuss the lease limit weight policy, the impacts of implementing the new lease limit, and the caregiver policy.
Okay, great. Thanks. And that's all we have for our third mutual committee. So we'll now move on to agenda item 13, where we'll get a update from our third board directors for the various GRF committees they attend, starting with the GRF Community Activities Committee, or CAC. SK.
Yes, GRF Community Activities Committee, CAC, meeting was held on July 11th, 1:30 p.m. in this boardroom. It was my first meeting that I attended since Mark assigned me to the CAC committee. In that meeting, committee discussed the followings. First, Ms. Gigilio, Director of Recreation Department, reported many activities during June and July, including July 4th a celebration with a golf cart parade. Also reported on Clubhouse 1 renovation progress. Second, Ms. Murphy, who is manager of rec department, also reported the Father's Day brunch, packed movie Wish, and announced a Spanish Day's return in July, and the Grandparents' Day in August, and other fun-filled activities in distant future. Third, Mr. Tom McRae, manager of the rec department, also reported on the golf course condition related to upcoming hot summer days. And also, he announced the Garden Center #1 will hold a farmers market event on July 24th, starting from 9 a.m. till all veggies are sold out. Members suggest an expansion of also discuss about members request a expansion of our pickleball courts and the swimming pool lanes to be shared. I guess there's some crowd in the pickleball court and also lanes. Some members doesn't want to share the lane. And also, during that meeting, a donation of coffee cup by Korean American Association for Clubhouse 1 drop-in lounge was discussed and approved by committee and submitted to GRF board approval. However, the detail of that is Korean American Association found out that coffee cup at drop-in lounge is being used more than 1 cup per person, or perhaps a number of cups being disappeared. So the cup, they started to control the cup distribution in the office. So Korean American Association feel that we can control by donating the cup and also see what happened with that. So we initially come up with the $5,000 for about half a year donation, and the rest of them will be another $5,000 donation for a whole 1 year trial period. And next the CAC meeting is scheduled on August 8th, 1:30 p.m. in this boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you, SK. What's new with the GRF Finance Committee, David?
GRF Finance Committee met on June 19, 2024. The committee approved a $1,100,000 transfer from the contingency fund to the operating fund to basically cover a deficit that occurred during 2023. Again, committee approved it, passed it along to the full GRF board for approval. The Security and Access Committee has been working with and got approval for providing security access to the Orange County Fire Authority emergency radio monitoring for our security folks. From the Maintenance and Construction Committee, the committee approved keeping the current EV charging rates unchanged, sent that to the board as well. On golf fees, traffic fees, and RV storage costs, staff provided reports on all 3 of these. These are going to be considered. If you're a golfer, you may want to follow the golf fee cost analysis. Staff provided reports on those, and they'll be considered at a later date. Next meeting of the JRF Finance Committee is on August 21, 2024.
Okay. And then what's new with speaking of the GRF Security and Community Access Committee, Reza, what can you tell us about?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Security and Community Access Committee met on June 26 at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom. The item discussed was RV lot price increase of fees that, they're going to be discussing, in finance also was referred to finance. The information on notice violation, the stat continued to show failure to obey stop sign is about 46.8% of the citation written. On the flashing a stop sign, it was recommended by committee to leave this program alone. It was small contribution, not cost effective, just leave it alone. The information from Orange County Sheriff Department indicate a total of 8 violations in the community over the last month. And the compliance notice of violation for our community was about 810. The self-initiated supervisor foot patrol, mainly they check a lot of the lights being out in the breezeway and, in those areas and check those lights because maintenance doesn't get to it and people keep complaining, they get done. Now the foot patrol really pay attention to those and report them. And the 33% of their activity also is the maintenance request that people have, and they make, on the foot patrol, they help with those 2 items, which is pretty good. Also, we discussed the golf path for Clubhouse 7 because Mr. Escape Park, a lot of issues with that. And I guess we decided to send it to the MNC and the community activity both to look at the potential for, making another easeway. I don't know who's going to pay for it. Maybe the golf cart people pay for it, but we'll find out. But our next meeting will be on August 28th at 1:30 p.m.
Great. Thanks, Reza. Next, I'll update you all regarding the GRF Media and Communications Committee. That committee last met yesterday, July 15th. During that meeting, the committee received an in-depth overview and demo of the new website that Siobhan shared with us in her CEO report earlier today. That website updates should be available for implementation later this year. The website team is working really hard on this overall search function. That's kind of the key pain point of the current website. It's very difficult to search for something and find what you're looking for. So they're working hard on making sure that that's going to work as expected. After the website presentation, the Communications Department shared an overview of the many communications that they help prepare and distribute for the boards and staff. And the GRF Media and Communications Committee, which meets every 3 months, is scheduled to next meet on Monday, October 21st at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. Next, we'll get an update regarding the village traffic hearings.
Yes.
SK?
Yes, it's a fun, closed traffic hearing. Traffic hearing was held on June 19th, a day after our board meeting last month, 9 a.m. in this boardroom. The traffic hearing total was 7 violations, including an appeal or heard. And the results are as follows. 4 failure to stop. 3 are guilty and fined $50. 1 violator canceled the hearing. 1 parked on sidewalk. They should know they should not park on sidewalk, but anyway they do. Guilty and fined $25. 1 miscellaneous violation at RV parking lot A. Guilty, no fine, which means warning light sent out to him. 1 appeal for failure stop of a residence guest. The traffic board denied appeal of visitor's failure to stop sign. That means if you invite or have a guest and they violate our rule, then you must be responsible for that. Next traffic hearing is scheduled on July 17 which is tomorrow, 9 a.m. in this boardroom. Thank you.
Thanks. And while I have you, SK, what can you share about the Information Technology and Advisory Committee?
Yes, ITAC, Information Technology Advisory Committee meeting was held on June 28th, 1:30 p.m. as a closed web meeting. This advisory committee overseeing the department and the implementation of Microsoft-based Dynamic 365 software program, ERP, for entire LW Laguna Wood Village organization. In the advisory committee, staff reported that ERP projected go-live date has been revised to September 1st in place of August 1st as original plan. Since UAT 2 has not been completed, UAT 2 testing expected to be completed in mid-July this month. UAT 2 testing includes software application testing in the area of general ledger, budget, AP, AR. AP is account payable, AR is account receivable, fixed asset, PO requisition, project support, and extra. And also Stella transaction integration and validation testing is in the UAT 2 test. Those testing planned to start July 1st and then should be finished mid-July. Also, staff reported the result of expenditure against the budget. We will be watching very closely on the ERP project, and I hope to report the final go-live action plan next meeting. Next ITAC meeting scheduled on July 26th, 1:30 p.m. on web closed meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, SK. And finally, the following GRF committees have not met since the last third board meeting of June 18th, and there are no updates for these. The GRF Disaster Preparedness Task Force last met on May 28th and is scheduled to next meet on Tuesday, July 30th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Mobility and Vehicles Committee last met on May 15th and is scheduled to next meet on Wednesday, August 7th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Landscape Committee last met on May 8th and is scheduled to next meet on Wednesday, August 14th at 1:30 p.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee last met on June 12th, and the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, August 14th at 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. The GRF Broadband Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 8th, and I had that the meeting was to be announced, but I think it's going to be June 24th?
June 24th at 9:30
July
a.m.
24th, sorry.
I mean, July 24th at 9:30.
9:30 a.m., okay. And the GRF Space Planning Ad Hoc Committee last met on May 11th, and I believe its next meeting is to be determined, if it even still exists. And that concludes our committee reports. We're now at agenda item 14, which is for the board to note of any items they would like to be discussed at a future board meeting. So far on our list, we have 3 items that we today put on to 28-day member review and comment, which were the revision to the THIRD's traffic rules and regulations, revision to standard 18 for gutters and downspouts, and the revision to standard 34 for windows and window attachments. Are there any other items anybody would like? Yes, Jules.
I want to go back to Ray's comments about violations. You had mentioned that there were 800 violations. Can you explain what they were?
810.
You got your microphone on?
Microphone. 810 violation within our community, and 8 was registered by the OC Sheriff Department.
Were these traffic violations?
All the violations. Violation, the golf cart violation, the carport violation, all the violation, total of 810.
So traffic, I think he may be referring, are these compliance violations like clutter? Would that be one of these?
Correct, because
Okay.
that's all comes to the security, and security make one.
Okay, I think that's just kind of what he
security
was-
make one report for everything.
Is there some way of breaking that up? Do you know what our...
It wasn't broken down, so that's all I have right now. But
Oh.
it can be I think they will break it down, in other meetings. Depends of. I mean, they do that for the other violations. I don't have that number.
Thank you.
Hey, Jules, if you go to meeting minutes, you will see all the detailed breakdowns of the SCAC meeting, all the violations. So I think you will find out very interesting of that. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Okay. All right. So I was asking, were there any other items that members would like to be added to future agenda? All right. Seeing none, we're now at agenda item 15, director's comments. Do any directors have any last minute comments? Jules? Okay. Moon, any last comments? Okay. Ira? Okay. SK? Jim?
Hungry.
Okay. All right. Reza? All right. Staff, you're all good? Okay. It is now 11:54, and our business for our open meeting is now completed. At this time, this monthly board meeting will recess for 20 minutes or so. Yeah, 25, what the heck. And then the executive committee will reconvene to executive session. As always, thanks of those of you who participated. Thanks to everybody for listening.